Hey, it's another random story time. I thought I'd do it inside today since the sun was so terrible yesterday. Not that the sun's terrible, but it was just getting in my way and getting in the way of my own glow, you know? I'm sure you all know. Anyway, today we've got Proud Bess, which is about a little horsey. Do you like horsies? Thanks, Lynette, for me being able to borrow some books off your girls and you, because it turns out that this is actually yours. Proud. Look, it's even got Lynette's name in there. How super is that? Proud Bess by Alan Blackwood. For those of you who like ponies, I love ponies. I was having an absolutely spiffy dream about ponies one night. Do you dream about ponies? Riding the pony? Bess had just been born and lay in the soft warm straw of the stable. Her mother gently licked her all over. Aren't you mums glad you don't have to lick your children all over after they're born? Very soon Bess tried to stand up. It was hard at first. Her legs felt all weak and wobbly. But after several tries, she was able to stand next to her mother. Do we have to do that? People don't have to do that, do they? They get carried around, sometimes for years. But ponies have to get up on their own. Or foals, as it turns out. Bess quickly grew from foal into a fine young filly. In a field next to the stables, she learned to walk and then to trot and gallop. Can you trot and gallop? Have you got a horse? You could share pictures of your horse. I love horses. I like to sniff them, just for something weird. It was a big field, and soon she wanted to go off for a trot and a gallop on her own. And as for the weird sniffing thing, I know horsey people will get exactly what I'm talking about. There's just something about the smell of horses that just makes you go, There were other horses in the field, and Bess was the youngest and the friskiest. She wanted to play games with all of them. She trotted over to a young black colt and tugged at his tail. She only meant it in fun, but the young colt reared on his legs and nearly kicked her. Do any of you have more than one horse? They do like to kick each other, don't they? I think I'd kick if someone pulled my tail. Next day, several people came into the stable and fitted a bridle over Bess's head. Then a girl called Pat, whom Bess had seen before, took hold of the bridle and led her out into the field. Bess didn't like being led anywhere. With a run and a jump, she was out of the field and trotting down the road. Imagine if you got dragged around with a bridle. It's probably some people who might like that, but most probably wouldn't. In a little while, Bess came to a garden gate. In the garden was a friendly dog, so Bess went in. The dog wagged his tail. He belonged to the house that stood in the garden. The door of the house was open, so Bess and the dog went inside. Well, imagine that, just cruising along, and the next thing, there's a horse in your lounge. What a mess they made. Bess slid on a carpet and kicked over a table. The dog pushed a chair, which knocked over a plant stand. The room was a shambles. Then they looked at each other. I think it's time we left, they seemed to say. Well, go figure. Sounds like some children in the lounge. Who else has found that their lounge ends up a shambles, having children home all the time? Isn't it fun? Out in the garden again, Bess said goodbye to the dog. Her ankle was starting to hurt from that slide on the carpet, but she wanted to go home for a feed of hay and a rest. When the people of the house returned and saw the room, they wondered what had happened. The lady cried out, "Burglars!" She never guessed Bess had been in there. Not sure which I'd prefer. Imagine if a horse had been in your lounge. Probably be horse poop everywhere too. It's bad enough when the rabbits hop round and they leave little special raisins everywhere. Pat was angry with Bess. "Yes, you were very bad to run off like that," she scolded. "You might have got lost or run onto a road and been hit by a car." Naughty Bess. Naughty, naughty. Then Pat stopped being angry. She put her arms round Bess's neck. "Promise me you'll never run away from me again," she said. Do you think Bess can promise that? Next morning, Pat decided to try Bess out with a saddle. But then she noticed that Bess was limping and saw that one of her ankles was quite swollen. That's because Bess had been being a naughty little pony, hadn't she? "Heavens, you're hurt," Pat cried. "I must get my dad to call the vet." The vet examined Bess's swollen ankle. "I'm afraid she has a broken bone," he told Pat. "Looks like Lynette has been doing some spell checking in here. She must come to my surgery. Bring her in your..." I wonder what it said before Lynette corrected it to float. What do they call these in England, I wonder, or America? Oh, yes, she's self-corrected over here. This is what happened before computers, when you could change it. Nice one, Lynette. Correcting to be the correct language. So Bess was put into the float and off she went. She didn't like being shut in the float and her ankle hurt. She wished she hadn't run away. Who else used to like changing the words in their stories when they were younger? She should have been a teacher. The vet set Bess's broken ankle, then wrapped her leg in plaster. Well, wasn't Bess a lucky horse? Because I'm pretty sure other things would happen these days. Bess had to wait patiently in the vet's stable until her ankle bone was strong. At last the vet said Pat could come and take Bess home again. Pat ran joyfully towards her filly and Bess greeted her with a whinny. Oh, can you do that? Bess's own mother was glad to see her again, but Bess was a bit ashamed of all the trouble she had caused. From now on, she would try to be good. That's right, Bess, conform to social norms. When Pat tried again to put a saddle on her, Bess stood quite still. Pat was dressed for riding. "Come on, Bess," she said. "Let's see how we get on in the field." Lucky Pat. Pat's friend Molly came running up. "I'll show you how to ride that filly," she said, and pulled herself up into the saddle. "Oh, no, you won't," thought Bess, and threw her off again. Who's experienced that? Pig rooting, it's called in Australia, where they like to buck and throw you over the front of their head. "You shouldn't have jumped on Bess like that," Pat said to Molly. "This is her first time out with a saddle. She's bound to be nervous." It's called Respecting the Horse, isn't it? Then very gently Pat pulled herself up into the saddle. Once more Bess stood quite still. Pat nudged Bess with her knees and Bess began to amble round the field. I knew you'd be good with me, Pat said. Wow, how lovely that Bess was kind to Pat. Pat guided Bess out of the field and nudged her again. Gosh, that's a lot of an experience, isn't it? I would have thought you'd spend a lot more time in the field before you took your horse out in public. But this is a story, and it's just the best of the world. Bess broke into a canter and then into a gallop. Through the woods they galloped until they came to the road. Pat pulled on the reins. Whoa, Bess, she said, this is far enough for us. Yes, wow, this is an ideal world where you can hop on your horse for the very first time and gallop and canter without any issues. Bess and Pat trotted happily back to the stables. Pat's mum and dad watched proudly, but proudest of all was Bess. Oh, how sweet. It is a nice story, isn't it? How great for Bess and Pat. Spending that time together, galloping and trotting, all on their first time. Proud Bess. Thanks, Lynette, for the lend of your book again. And for your spelling improvements. And we also have Isabella's Secret by Jane Tanner. Oh, look at that, sparkling. Sparkle, sparkle. Which is also courtesy of Lynette. I did go and have a look through her bookshelves and she pulled out a whole pile that I could borrow. This is beautiful too. Underneath the apple tree, the grass felt soft as a pillow. Isabella lay listening to the friendly sounds around her. Leaves rustled, a sparrow chirped, a bee hummed. How many of you do that in your garden, just lie there and listen? It's so nice to listen to all the bird life, especially at the moment. Hush, what was that? Two tiny tinkling voices calling, Isabella, Isabella. How nice. I love lying in my garden, looking up at the sky. Come and play with us. Isabella trembled with excitement. She had always looked for fairies in the garden, and here they were. Do you think you have fairies in your garden? What an exciting thought. Up she jumped and played with them. She blew shimmering rainbow bubbles, as light as fairy wings. Her tiny friends gleefully darted and hovered, fluttered and drifted around her. What wonderful words. Gleefully means happily. Darted would be fast, wouldn't it? And hovered would mean that they're staying in one space. Fluttered and drifted. You could use those in your stories. Then Isabella showed them her treasures. Because she loved so many floating, flying things, the fairies guessed her secret wish. What would your secret wish be if you could have one? Would it be to fly like the fairies? They had secrets of their own to share, so they whispered to Isabella, "Peek very softly, don't make a sound. Come and look between the leaves, there's magic all around. There are tiny worlds within your world, and playmates to be found." What do you suppose? Can you see what we see? What can you see? Here's a dandelion. Have you blown a dandelion? Can you blow a dandelion? Let's pretend. It's so much fun to blow, don't you think? Come closer. Look at all those fairies. They're all different, aren't they? How beautiful. Suddenly, Isabella felt herself getting smaller and smaller. I'm pretty sure there's a few of us who would like that to happen too, especially after our cocoon time. Hooray for fairy dust! Her wish had come true. At last, she could fly. Would that be something that you would like to do? I'd love to be able to fly through the bush. How thrilling it was to be so small. What are some of the things that could happen if you were that small, though? Birds could eat you, and they'd gobble you up and into their tummies. What else might happen? You'd have to be very careful, wouldn't you? And to see the world as a new and wondrous place, she danced with her friends, twirling and fluttering among the flowers. That would be so exciting, wouldn't it? I'd love to be able to do that. I do it in my mind. Oh, look, they've got the dandelion. Isabella felt so happy and full of sunshine. She was light as thistledown. But she knew she couldn't stay little forever. Isabella felt herself getting bigger and bigger. Still keeping the magic in her heart, she let her feet lightly touch the ground. Sometimes that's what we have to do. When something magical or something wonderful happens for us, we need to keep it in our hearts so that we can remember it. And it brings us joy on other occasions. Will you come to play with me again? She asked shyly. In voices like silvery music, the fairies answered, tiptoe softly in long grass and smell the flowers as you pass. Gather leaves as they float by, dance with each bright butterfly. Then wait beneath the apple tree and call us. Very quietly. Can you see them? What a magnificent experience. What things could you do like Isabella's secret? What things do you get to keep in your heart that make you feel happy? Those are the things that get us through times like this cocoon time, where we have to take care of ourselves. Those are the things that we fill up on. All the good times, aren't they? Like Bess and Pat getting to ride together, and Isabella with the fairies. What is something that you have been doing to take care of you lately? I know that during this time, there's been lots of upheaval for people and lots of things that have been different, and we're needing to cope in different ways. So what are some of the things that you can think of that you can bring into your heart space and use to bring you joy? Because with joy, we get to enjoy every day. Think about something that brings you joy. Maybe spread that joy out. So on that note, remember to be kind. Remember to be compassionate. Remember to fill up your own well so that you've got enough to share later. Take care and remember to find something that brings you joy. And lots of virtual hugs out to all of you. I know I'm missing hugs at the moment. Look out when I can get out and give hugs. Some random is going to get one. Take care, people.